Hey everybody, this is Porik from Watch Games. I wanted to start a document video in which I record the development of a D&D campaign, which is somewhat unorthodox in how it's going to be run and the parameters of the game. Got about 6 players. We're going to play once every 2 weeks, and we're going to try some concepts to take role-playing games in a direction that is probably not very common. What we've noticed is many role-playing games, specifically Pathfinder and D&D, turn into kind of a silly session in which the characters are doing things that are fantastic and amazing and all these kind of things, but that there isn't any kind of grittiness or emotional investment in the game itself or the characters. And I've been inspired sort of to play a role-playing game that was in the same flavor as Game of Thrones, where there's an attachment to characters, and when people are killed or maimed or politically destroyed, there's an emotional reaction on the part of the players. The other thing that I wanted to really emphasize is the tension in which characters have, actually the tension which the players have when their characters have to make certain decisions. I want to put them in situations where there is no good answer. There's 2 bad answers, and one is just less bad than the other. And then have them wrestle with the consequences of those choices. A lot of this is going to be based off of some real world experience, but put into the fantasy setting of the Forgotten Realms in 5th edition D&D. So I wanted to document some of that development and see how it went, and then discuss the results. So for this video, I'm going to try to keep these kind of short. For this video, I'm introducing the concept that the players don't refer to their characters by their class, even while they're creating. We'll use the class as a system and a mechanic in which they get their abilities and their buffs and their statistics and all this kind of stuff. But when they're in the game, at no point do they introduce themselves as the rogue or the fighter or the magic user. Those concepts are going to be off the table, and they're going to introduce themselves by the character's name and possibly, the job that they do in order to earn a living. And while it'd be easy to call Joe, "Hi, my name's Joe. I'm the fighter of the group." That's not really realistic. And so what we're trying to do is provide a setting in which players can introduce themselves as, "Hey, I'm Joe. I'm currently a caravan guard," or "I'm Joe and I'm the bouncer at the local inn," or "Hey, I'm Joe and I happen to be in the city watch," or something like that. And then, of course, we can infer that they're probably a fighter, but that's not necessarily true. And what I'm hoping this does is it breaks the box on the expectations of what the role is for that character in any particular situation. I think the game has become somewhat stale in the sense that people opt for party balance, and if you have these different roles that need to be satisfied, when in reality, real life isn't quite like that. And so what I wanted to do is strip the box and the categories that people are using when they're generating their characters and composing their party. And I'd rather have 4 people come together, introduce themselves with their names and maybe what they do to earn a living, but then the skills and the pros and cons of one person versus another person becomes evident through events in the game. Combat obviously being an obvious one, but role-playing opportunities when one character shows up and he says he's the baker. That's not a class. But then he starts talking to the city guard, and he talks the guard into looking the other way as the party has to make its way through a gate, or he bribes the guy. You get the realization that while this guy is a baker, he's got a whole different skill set that has nothing to do with baking. And you start looking at that character in a different way, and it reinvigorates the idea that you're discovering each other through a series of events and conflicts, and there's tension-filled moments where you're not too sure who's got the answer to this dilemma, and then you're surprised when the guy next to you that you thought you knew really well has a skill set that you didn't know. So I'm hoping to recreate that in the game. So the first rule of this reformation of the game is no character classes. I'll let you guys know how that turns out. We have our first session coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'll make a video post-session letting you know how that worked out. Thanks for listening. Bye.